Ask Reddit. Teachers of Reddit, what was the best excuse for being late that turned out to be true? A kid's apartment burned down overnight. He was a little late, but still came. Now that's dedication. One of my Oregon students told me that he was late arriving for his lesson because he got stuck behind a lengthy funeral procession en route to the cemetery. I knew he was telling the truth because I had played the organ for the service earlier that morning and the church was packed. Wait, wouldn't he have still got to the lesson before you if you were at the service? No, because the student got stuck after the service when everyone was driving from the service to the cemetery. In my hometown, if you walked into anywhere late and said the phrase, "Sorry, grain train," you were never challenged. It was extremely common for 50-plus carriage trains to run through the middle of town. We have the same thing in my hometown, except it's the bridge was up. That bridge is notorious for not following a schedule and always being up when you're in a hurry. A kid missed my first period class one morning, but was in school later that day. When I asked him why he hadn't arrived in time for my course, he said his cow was giving birth to its calf that morning, so he'd picked being in the barn over English. Made sense to me. His essays weren't going to win any ribbons at the county fair, but his calf could. I was late to AP Bio because my goats had kids that morning. I feel like these should have been counted for my grade. Edit. My bio teacher was actually a neighbor and had been by my farm before, so I of course didn't get in any trouble. It's not a farming community, though very suburban, so I was the only one in the school that could have used the excuse. We had an exam in my class and the teacher got a message from a student saying that he was going to be late because his car had a flat tire. The student was known to party. The teacher didn't think it could be true, so as a joke, the teacher asked him to bring the tire back. He brought the flat tire back in the middle of the exam. Needless to say, the professor didn't expect that. That student had been partying, drives to school, takes off tire, punctures it, and bobs your Auntie Mary. UK. A student couldn't submit an assignment on time as the Wi-Fi was down on the megabus. Standard, to be honest. When I was in college, my psych professor told us that the only excuse for being late was a funeral procession. Any other reason, you wouldn't be allowed to come in. A few weeks into the semester, I was headed from one building to another which involved crossing the main road. There was one very long funeral procession going by. I got a short video of it as proof, then stood on the sidewalk to let it go by. Unfortunately, the procession made me 5 minutes late to class. I knocked on the door, and the professor came over to start to tell me off. I showed her the video. Well, I'll be damned. Come on in. And then you could just save that video for any future professors like that. I had a teacher who showed up about halfway through the class. Apparently, her car had slid. Intense snowstorm the night before, and she had walked the last mile or so. That's dedication to students. MTV paid me $50 to fill my backpack with cement and carry it around for the day. I accepted that excuse. Student later regretted it, as a replacement backpack and college textbooks far exceeded $50. But he got his moment of fame and I didn't penalize him for his tardy. Gotta live a little. Edit. Someone found a newspaper article on this. Turns out it was $200. He earned $100 for the first day and $100 when he returned the next day. I remembered $50, but it was 19 years ago. So, I was right to believe him. He still lost all his stuff, thanks cement, and I remember him telling me it wasn't worth it. I had a 6-year-old turn up late to her lesson and blurt out, "Sorry I was late. I had to color in a bunny." Seems fair. Can't blame her. Coloring the bunny is an important job after all. She had to take her sister to school and drive her mom to rehab. She was always late to class because her mom just wanted to sleep in. Problem was, if the mom was late or did not go, she would have violated her probation and gone to prison. I never marked her late. If she missed anything important, she could come in at lunch or after school to make it up. You sound like an amazing teacher. Thanks for all that you do. My best friend and I used to roller skate to school, and one day we both forgot to put our shoes in our backpacks. So we skated to the vice principal's office and got to skip first period to go home for shoes. We stopped at Taco Bell on the way back for breakfast because we figured we were already excused. I had a teacher in high school that would tell us if we're gonna be late to pick up coffee because 2 minutes late is the same as 15. Not a student, but one of my teaching assistants. When I ran a preschool in West Philly, sorry I was late yesterday, my friend shot my mom. Naturally, I'm a little speechless. Oh no, it's okay. He was aiming for someone else. When I was a manager at a pizza place, one of my employees had the same excuse and attitude, except he was the one who got shot. He lived in North Philly though. It's cool, he said. My bad. Well, okay then. I was the student. My neighbor had a really social goat, and she figured out how to escape her pen in order to come over and hang out. She escaped and followed me to the bus stop, and when the bus came, she tried to follow me onto it. I couldn't actually get on the bus without her being right behind me, so I had to get off, bring her home, and call my dad to bring me to school. I was one of about 20 kids who were late to school. We showed up at the school office as a group, and when questioned why we were late, we said, the school bus blew up. They questioned, so the engine blew up. The kids, no, the whole bus, in flames. It blew up. There was much conference between the teachers, all of them thinking we embellished the story. Next thing you know, one of the admin staff has the news website open, very obvious image of an entire bus on fire with a bunch of kids in our school uniform standing in front of it. Our late slip for class read, "School bus blew up." If that happened, I would walk home. Not a teacher, but a friend said his house blew away. Apparently, tornado. May have been my house and took about a week off from school to help clean up my house. After 9/11, my small town high school received bomb threats every week for 2 months, and they decided to make us attend school on a Saturday. Myself and about 5 others showed up for our classes, and every teacher said something like, "I can't wait for the excuses on Monday." Most of the excuses were something along the lines of family plans or whatnot, but one kid was made read his dad's note aloud to the class because our first period teacher thought it was hilarious. In the most down south accent you can imagine, it went something like, "My son ain't too smart, but he knows you ain't supposed to get punished for someone else being a dumbass. Bought him a 6-pack so he was drunk. Y'all can fuck off." I wish we had smartphones to record back then so I could share it. Told me he got pulled over by the cops for wobbly driving on his bike, and they thought he was drunk. Turned out he was just dodging all the slugs on the street. This happened to me as a pupil. A very quiet, unassuming kid in our class came into German with about 5 minutes of the class left. We went to a Catholic school and the teachers were all quite strict and intimidating. Classes were usually silent, especially in junior high school. When this boy came into class at the end of the lesson that day, the door flew inwards with such force that the teacher gave an audible gasp. It had been raining heavily outside. His hair was plastered to his forehead. His blazer was dripping and sodden. He had mud caked into his trousers up to his knees, and he was breathing heavily. The teacher exclaimed, "Brandon, what happened?" We all stared up at him in shocked silence. This quiet, unassuming little boy let out a big sigh and just said, "I took a shortcut," and went straight to his seat. That line became iconic in our school for years afterwards. I love this story. The kid came in badass. Not me, but in my class. This was in college. Student turned in, work late after not showing up for 2 classes. 2 classes amounted to a full week, so it was noticeable. Professor looked at him and said, "I hope somebody died for you to be this late." Does my dad count? Honestly, I've always heard you can hear a pin drop and never really thought anything of it. But yeah, you could hear a fucking pin cut through the air after that. Geez, teacher must have been like, "Oh crap." Oh, You made it to the end. Smash like and subscribe for more amazing content.